What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Eclectic Beard Gaming Reactions. This go around, we got top 5 creepiest tales from English folklore. This I thought would be a little bit interesting because we have, urban legends and stuff like that over here. It's always kind of cool checking that kind of stuff out. As old as England is, and Scotland. This is just English, but the whole kit caboodle of the Isles over there. I can only imagine how many there are. Just probably more than a few. So we're just gonna take a look at top 5 creepiest tales from English folklore.
Which one? Here we have 5 creepy tales from English folklore. Every culture all over the world has stories that are passed down from generation to generation. Serve lots of different purposes. They teach us how to live, they explain the world around us, and occasionally serve as warnings too. English folklore is amongst the most well known all over the world. Tales from King Arthur to garden gnomes. It shaped the folk culture of English speaking countries all over the world. There is another side to English folklore though, a darker side, full of unexplained mysteries and stories of the paranormal. These are the stories.
You wonder sometimes how many, especially with the scarier stuff, maybe somebody was on a little bit something that was mind altering. Maybe they ate the wrong kind of mushroom back in the day. Of course, they all, for the most part, has served to take and probably started as either cautionary tales or maybe campfire tales to, scare folks. But yeah,
This we're looking at today. Here we go. Redcap. For hundreds of years, the continuous war between England and Scotland made the borders a lawless and dangerous place to be. Raiders frequently passed from one country into the other. They committed crimes they knew they couldn't be punished for when they returned home. Over time, lots of myths and legends about evil criminals and horrific deeds started up. Amongst these, there also appeared many stories of malevolent spirits and creatures who took advantage of the hostile land and wreaked havoc on people who lived there. One of these creatures was the redcap. He was a sinister being which took the form of an old man with iron shoes. He had long,
sounds like maybe, just maybe, some criminals that were very good at ambushing, maybe wore red hoods, become folklore.
kept hair, red eyes, thin fingers with nails like talons and long teeth, and of course, he wore a deep red hat. He prowled between the abandoned castles along the border. He would hunt for bodies left behind by war or raiding, and use their blood to dye his cap. If there were no bodies, he'd lie in wait in the old ruins, looking for unfortunate travellers, people who were lost. He would kill them with a rock.
Oh yeah, that definitely sounds like criminal. Just somebody that's very opportunistic.
Whilst Redcap sounds scary, there was a way of defeating him. It's said that if someone recited the scriptures in front of him or brandished a crucifix, he would scream in pain and disappear in a ball of fire, leaving one long, ragged tooth behind.
Wait, so basically he was half vampire? Or, wait, that's not even exactly right, because you could read scriptures to vampires. Yeah, they can't be hit with holy water, that's what it was. Right, okay. Different things, but sounds like, kind of a mixture.
Drake's drum. Sir Francis Drake, he accomplished a lot during his lifetime, as well as being the first Englishman to see the Pacific and circumnavigate the world. He performed many feats of skill in his career as a privateer, particularly by defeating the Spanish Armada in 1588 and putting an end to Spain's hopes of invading mainland England. Drake is undoubtedly an English hero, but there are also many dark tales that have followed him. For example, it is believed that he elicited the support of the devil in order to beat the Spanish. In his final days, he was said to have ranted and raved deliriously in words that no one cared to record. Shortly after his death, one of his friends wrote a poem in his honour, which seemed to hint that in its time of dire need he will return to save England and again usher in a new age of glory. This led to the rise of a popular myth surrounding Drake's drum, an artefact which was kept on display until recently in his home of Buckland Abbey. According to the legend, in times of hardship or peril, the drum can be heard beating. People are said to have heard it beating in the Napoleonic Wars as well as both World Wars. In recent times, the drum's been moved to a secure, climate-controlled location to keep it safe. A replica now sits in its original place. Willow the...
See, now that's more like, that's not really creepy. That's more like a hero, a national hero that's turned, that's got a bit of folklore behind him. Because, of course, you beat like the Spanish Armada, which until they got beat by the English, supposedly had the biggest and baddest navy in the world. So, but, Drake and storms and all that kind of happened to it. That kind of thing. And then, him passing on. And, of course, they're going to, all kinds of rumors, especially whenever somebody circumnavigates the world. There's all kind of stuff that they see that's, unknown at the time. That it's, I'm sure he probably wrote about it. He took and contributed a great bit of the stuff that he actually run across to England's fortunes, and I'm sure some of the tales that he brought back probably got some of that rumor mill started. Yeah, so the fact that people, you take and bang his drum, the drum bang in, times of dire need and England will return to former glory. That's not so much creepy as it's just one of those, looking to somebody that, meant a great deal to a country. So that one's kind of, but that was actually cool to learn about.
The wisp, also known as Willow the Torch or Jack-o'-lantern. It is a softly glowing light that often appears at dusk or early night in marshes and swamps, though occasionally they do appear elsewhere too. References to these mysterious lights appear in folklore across the world and have particular prevalence in cold, wet England. According to the myth, they are often found along out-of-the-way paths, luring travellers who are lost along the road. Depending on how the traveller treats the wisp, they may lead them to safety or even to treasure, but most of the time the wisp is a malevolent creature seeking to lead the unsuspecting to their doom. In Celtic myth, the wisp is a light carried by a fairy or other mischievous spirit, who will blow it out once the traveller is well and truly lost. In some myths, the named character, Will or Jack, was an individual who led an extremely wicked life. When he died, he was cursed to roam the world forever. The devil gave him a single hot coal to warm himself. He obviously used this coal then to make a lantern, which he now uses to lead people to their deaths. Others think the spirits are paranormal beings. They have the power to predict the future, sometimes appearing before a local tragedy happens.
So that's kind of weird with it, at least last bit of it sometimes appearing before tragedy happens. Of course, and again, it's been said that you can look the sky for bad, for evil foretellings at times. Sounds like maybe, light taking and peeking through somewhere, because talk about, often in out of the way places, seeing out of the way pathways and places and stuff like that, most often. So it makes you wonder if maybe there's not a mist that's carried and maybe the light hitting just right and taking and making something. So people follow it thinking, oh, look, there's a way. And yeah, who knows though, because there's stuff like that, like it said, worldwide. We've got stuff like that over here. I don't know if it's exactly called will-o'-wisp, but still pretty cool nonetheless.
Guy trash. The countryside of Yorkshire is one of the most mysterious and least travelled parts of Britain, even today. The expansive hills are crisscrossed by ancient pathways that have been used for hundreds and hundreds of years. As a result, it's very easy to get lost there, especially if the traveller is not familiar with the area. The wilds of Yorkshire are stalked by all manner of mysterious beings, from hobgoblins to wailing spirits. The Guy Trash was one of the most dangerous spirits said to live in Yorkshire. often appearing as a black dog or a mule. The horse usually had fiery red eyes. It would haunt out-of-the-way paths at sunset in search of travellers who were lost. The traveller would follow the guy trash, only to be led further astray to become totally lost. Once the traveller was at its mercy, the guy trash would either attack or just disappear, leaving the lost voyager alone, lost on a dark, lonely road.
The other thing I find interesting is how often or how many things are seen or found either just before sunrise or just before sunset. Because, yeah, that's when you happen to see some stuff. That's when animals, especially predators, are very most active. So you take and follow what's this? This looks cool, but you can't quite get a look at it. Let me get a closer look. So you follow it, and you go further, and you go further. And then you realize, uh-oh, we're in trouble. So maybe it sounds like that's kind of what's happening here. Of course, and again, like I said, there's all kind of stuff like this the world over. It's just called different things. So, but a lot of it happens the same way. So, maybe that's what happens here. That kind of would make sense. But then again, I mean, you got a place like Yorkshire County. It says it's there's a lot of wild area that hasn't been traversed and or isn't very frequently traversed, and just before the sun sets, oh look, an animal, let me see what it is, and yeah, it doesn't quite go the way they plan. Right, either they follow it and animal never appears, so you get lost and you kind of starve to death, or fall and hurt yourself and die. That happens, unfortunately. So it's interesting to take and hear some of this stuff, because the names for some of the stuff that, yeah, this is just highly interesting.
However, occasionally the guy trash will also be a benevolent figure, leading lost people back to civilization. Famously, the guy trash makes an appearance in Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre when she's scared by a solitary horse following her down the road. The Beast of Bodmin Moor. Bodmin Moor lies in the southwest of England. It's a place...
Here's another question I got. I wonder how many of these things might possibly be stuff that are actual animals that, no longer exist because people. But since nobody ever got a really good look at it, but the habitats have been, went down and stuff like that. Of course, I wouldn't make, I can see that one hand, but then again, it being in a place where there's still a lot of open area, and they're not, maybe not so much. Just, it makes you wonder, it really does.
Infamous for sightings of unusual and paranormal things. It's sparsely populated and dotted with ancient ruins from the Neolithic period onward. Many locals consider the whole area to be haunted. Beast of Bodmin Moor, however, is not thought to be a ghost, but a large black cat that stalks the highlands and attacks its livestock. The stories first began in around 1978, alongside several reports of animals being found mutilated. Some speculated that it must be a large panther that's escaped from somebody's private zoo, but since it would have been kept legally, the owner didn't report it missing. As time went on and sightings continued, however, people began to look for other explanations. Some now think there might be a whole family of black cats roaming Bodmin Moors. Others say they are descendants of ancient black cats which used to stalk Britain in the distant past. There have been over 60 reported sightings of the beast in Bodmin Moor over the years.
So an English chupacabra almost.
Enough to interest the UK government, apparently, which conducted an official investigation into the sightings in 1995. After the investigation, they concluded that there was no definitive evidence of an unusual beast living on the moor. But
if they're anything like the government here in the US, they're going to have found something like, oh crap, they can't know about this, let's not say nothing. So, hopefully they actually found nothing, because otherwise, it'd be like us. Oh yeah, there's no such, oh good lord, I'm not going to go into that any further, because some of the stuff, they're like, no, that doesn't exist, and stuff is declassified, and you read it, you're like, what?
They couldn't explain the attacks on the livestock, which carry on happening today. Sightings of the beast continue to this day too, with no definitive explanation found as of yet. Boggarts. These were made famous by J.K. Rowling, who featured them in her Harry Potter novels. They were featured as evil creatures who took the form of whatever the victim fears the most. In English folklore, though, a boggart was a kind of evil creature which attached itself to families or households and was a nuisance. According to
It's like a poltergeist.
traditional tales, boggarts love to hide in dark spaces, such as unused attics or cellars and cupboards or under beds. They are sometimes described as shapeshifters. Boggarts were the source of many misfortunes in the home. They broke things, they turned food sour or rotten, they made the house creak, banging, you name it, these things were responsible for it. Boggarts were also notoriously difficult to get rid of, following families from place to place even if they moved house. People were warned not to name their boggart, because once it was named it would become even more powerful and angry and much harder to remove. There are many similarities between the boggart and a modern idea of a poltergeist, the main difference being that a boggart wasn't a ghost, but a malevolent fairy or other mythical creature.
Well, technically poltergeist isn't really a ghost. It's a malevolent spirit. It can be a ghost, but 9 times out of 10 is malevolent spirit. So, but it's interesting the differences and slight variations on stuff. Shapeshifter makes sense on the reason why J.K. Rowling took and wrote Bodgart as she did in Harry Potter, because it takes form, whatever you're afraid of, shapeshifting, wild stuff like that. But that was interesting. I'm gonna find some more stuff like this because that was cool. I like that. Y'all be good to each other. Love yourselves. Peace.